G'day everyone. So I want to speak to the situation in Melbourne, and I appreciate that this is a divisive conversation for many, but so many have asked for my opinion, and I'm going to give it because I believe we need to lean into these conversations, because I know if we don't, that these are the conversations that build resentment, that build divisions between each other that aren't mended unless we do finally go back and speak into them, and are already dividing so many. In particular, the conversation around the protests at the Shrine. I'm a fifth generation veteran, and I see those places as our sacred places. Those who signed up to serve, who went away to fight, and those who died. And these monuments reflect and remember those who made that ultimate sacrifice. And I don't believe it's appropriate to stand or sit amongst them, as is the military tradition. That doesn't mean my opinion is right. That's just my opinion. And I know so many others have that, and I know so many others don't. I know that so many others are happy to say that what the people were protesting is actually a part of those values and freedoms that our Anzacs and our servicemen and women fought to protect. And that's probably true as well. For me, I guess I have to declare that I bring a bit of bias and a bit of resentment into this conversation already. As most of you should remember, back as early as the start of February, it was the Victorian government and the Victorian RSL who were the first to call off the Anzac Day parade marches 2 months well before they were planned, citing again the COVID pandemic and restrictions. With the support of many others, including Steve Price, 2GB and so many other news outlets, we're able to get more of the message out there with just how we could actually practically and pragmatically work to protect those that were most vulnerable, but still celebrate these custodians and these traditions that so many of us young veterans needed at this time, particularly within the mental health crisis faced by the veteran community, and now so many more as this pandemic has continued, as lockdowns have continued. Even then, when the Victorian government put up fences and barricades around the Shrine of Remembrance, it was so hard to gather a lot of overt public experience, let alone any protests in response. Yet here and now, there are protesters drawing lineage back to those same ancestors. So it's very hard for us, or for myself in particular, to really be empathetic to a lot of those conversations, but hey, that's me, and I'll declare that up front. I also really want to touch on this whole situation that so many people are really turning on the police in general. Now, I know a fair few veterans who currently work within the Victorian Police. Some of them I've served with myself. I've spoken with some of them that absolutely condemn actions like you saw that officer come up behind that person at the train station and smash their face into the ground. There are individual actions within the collective general, and it's so important to not generalise all. Unfortunately, it is our police and our protesters that are caught within this spiral that has been generated by what I will simply call toxic leadership, by these daily press conferences that are perpetuating anxiety, that are inciting emotions, that are causing people to have reactions, that are causing them to fight or defend, that are turning all conversations into one side or the other, as opposed to all of the ground in between. I'm personally fully vaccinated, but I stand by the fact that I believe everything should be the freedom of choice. I stand by the fact that we need to be responsible for our own health and safety. I wish governments would turn to reporting on the current thresholds and capabilities that our public health systems are facing. Telling people that, hey, if you're not vaccinated and you choose to go out and potentially expose yourself to receive higher symptoms should you contract COVID, you're less likely to receive support or receive treatment within ICU. These are the conversations we need to have, because so many Australians are suffering from more damage than this pandemic is going to inflict on them. They're suffering from failed finances, failed marriages, failed family situations at home, failures in their own mental and physical health. All these other issues that aren't being put into the spreadsheets or statistics we're seeing in these news cycles, but those that will be left long lasting once we are finally through this pandemic and beyond. There needs to be this individual accountability and individual action taken to provide pragmatic steps to make sure that we can actually progress out of this. And those include peaceful protests, but those also need to include petitions. With enough numbers, any conversation must be, by our constitutional law, carried on into the chambers of parliament and out of the streets and off our shrines. People need to come together with this unified action to put their voices and their names to paper, so as then we can legally hold these governments to account. And should they not choose to then act on that constitutional requirement, go back and cast accountability. I plan to do that. I plan to go back and cast all accountability we can when these situations allow, and when I have the team able to do so. And this isn't a political conversation. This is Heston Russell. This is not the Australian Veterans Party. This is not the Veteran Support Force. I myself personally will always wade into any situation that requires accountability. Personally, I'm engaged in the courts, and as opposed to paying money for something that didn't turn up the way it was supposed to, I'll probably end up paying double that just to see accountability cast. I stand by these values because they are my own. And I would call on all Australians, all those in Melbourne, all those in Victoria who have a strong opinion about these, or any opinion at all, because our life is currently politics. And it's only through individual action united with purpose can we achieve real and lasting change. To find a petition, to sign it. If you have one you want me to push out, let me know. I don't think it's appropriate for me sitting up here in Queensland to be instigating a petition down in Victoria, but I'll happily push through one that provides the objective opportunity for any Australian citizen to provide their opinion one way or the next. I'm a firm believer that what we're seeing at the moment is failed leadership. Lazy leadership that comes with wide sweeping generalised restrictions as opposed to pragmatic tactical actions. Laying off of hundreds of thousands of workers for less than 500 sites, 500 cases is definitely not the solution, but it's the easy and the quick fix. I'm watching decisions being made in press conferences that are demonstrating nothing more than personal emotion to me, as opposed to objectivity in these conversations. Decisions made relying on authority as opposed to leadership, looking to motivate through fear and restrictions as opposed to empower through inspiration and through initiative. I would call on so many to allow others to have these conversations, to lean forward into these conversations, to stop turning these conversations into one side or the other, to allow people their right to be acting like adults, their right to be heard, their right to feel like they have an opinion that counts, and their right to have a difference of opinion with others. To get off social media and doing these toxic comments and toxic conversations that are probably going to perpetuate from even this video. I'll probably choose to remove the comments because this is my social media, not yours. This is my opinion, not yours. You're the one who can choose to sit here and listen to it or not. And I welcome that. And if you want to object, please take the time to write me an email or record a video back to me. Myself personally, as opposed to reacting to so many of these situations emotively that I want to and I'm being led to by the media and social media, find it so much more constructive to go away, collect my thoughts and actually do something like this video or write an email out and allow that structure of that platform to provide me with the clarity I need to communicate my message. If nothing else, and you've been able to watch this video all the way to the end, thank you so much for doing so. Go away and please have these conversations and make sure you finish these conversations with the other person feeling like they have been respected, they have been heard, and don't leave anything to assumption, because it's in that area of assumption that we create further uncertainty, we create further resentment, and we create further issues that work to divide each other as opposed to provide clarity, provide purpose, and unite each other in a common picture and in a common narrative moving forward. We need these petitions. We need these names and facts on paper because unfortunately, there are not many politicians in any system at the moment who are able to stand out with confidence without knowing that they have the public opinion behind them. That's fine. That's the current state of play. That's the current system. And there are some, however, who will openly do that and have done that. But it's in recording these, getting these petitions forward, demonstrating through peaceful protests that we set the parameters and the evidence that we can go and then hold our governments accountable to. So please send them through and I'll happily push them through myself.